Welcome to Bookwrights House, where we explore stories of perseverance, faith, and determination to rise beyond the limits set by circumstance. Today's interview features a powerful life story rooted in hardship, discipline, and unwavering belief in the power of prayer. In Progress Through Struggle, Henry R. Leggett shares his journey from working the fields on his father's farm to repairing the electronic control systems used by air traffic controllers guiding aircraft across the skies above those very same fields. More than a story of a career success, this book is about generational struggle, the power of education, and a belief that with faith and hard work, no barrier is too great to overcome. Mr. Leggett, welcome to Bookwrights House. It is an honor to have you with us today. My name is Elijah Barcelona. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so to start the interview, first question goes, you write that progress through struggle began long before you were born. So with the hardships faced by your great grandparents, and parents, how did their experiences shape your own definition of success and determination?
Okay, I guess it started back my great grandparents. As my great grandparents came out of slavery, then it moved on to my grandparents, then to my parents. Because as an African Americans, we always you have to prove yourself because of what the education that you had. But one of my grandparents had a college degree. My great grandparents had a college degree, and it was just hard to prove. That's why I put it together, because progress through struggle. We was struggling to stay where we are. And that's when I put it together, progress through struggle.
Okay. So you described yourself as someone who slipped through the crack of the path that many young African American men in Kemper and Lauderdale countries were expected to follow. So do you remember the moment when you realized your life could take a different direction than farming and low-paying labor?
Yes. Well, one reason that once you work in the fields in Mississippi at that time, the temperature was 100 degrees plus Fahrenheit. And that would tell you that if you can study, do something better than work in the fields, because it was hot out there. And I knew that if anybody would give me a test, more than likely I could pass that test. So that's what they allowed me to do, is to pass a test. And that's when I proved myself. I passed the test.
Okay, that's nice to hear. Now let's move on. Let's talk about faith and determination. Okay, so throughout your story, you credit your success in prayer and faith in God. How did your faith help you keep going during the times when you were turned down for jobs or denied opportunities to learn?
Yeah, basically, when I received a job after I got out of high school, when I received a job, most of the time when an African American receive a job, if you're working along on the same level as your counterpart, which is most time is white, if you're working on the same level as your counterpart, they're gonna get higher pay than African American. 20 cents an hour more. For instance, about that time, we was making $1 and $1.10 an hour. That's what I started out making. Okay, now my counterpart would probably be making $1.30 an hour. That's when I determined then it was not a equal system. Everybody was doing one thing. It made it difficult, to work like that and try to improve so you be at that level.
Indeed. Okay. You often say that when faced with a challenge, your answer was simply, to study harder. So was that drive a response to the social pressures of the time, or did you always have a personal passion for learning electronics and mechanics?
Okay. One of the things I do want to mention this. One of the things when I went to an African American college after that, I had 3 courses from completing college. And then I had to go in service because I was drafted to go in service. And I went in service and I was drafted. And I came out of service and completed college. Okay, here's another thing that started me to thinking about progress through struggle. I went to a civil service office in Meridian, Mississippi. And I walked in there and the gentleman told me, "What do you come here for?" I told him I can't get an application for federal employment. "What are you going to do?" I told him what I was going to do. I was going to repair electronic equipment. "Why did you learn how to repair electronic equipment?" "Did you?" I told him, "In the military." "What kind of electronic equipment did you repair?" I told him. He said, "Did they let you repair it or you just stood in the background?" I said, "No, I repaired it. I was one of the main repairers." He said, "I'm not going to give you an application. I'm not going to give you one." Then I looked for the door. I said, what in the world am I, I can't get an application. That's what I'm saying to myself. And all at once he said, "Get out of here." I hit the door running, looking back, hoping that man would not shoot me because I asked for an application for employment. But I left there, went home, I prayed for this man. I know he needed prayer. And I prayed and I thought about John 3:16. And then I wrote to the place that I was looking for to work, and I got the application. And I was hired shortly after I got the application. And that's where it started. That's where my electronics started. Mm-hmm. Not with the FAA, but I was working for the U.S. Department of the Army.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So next we'll be talking about that. So you described your assignment to the U.S. Army Signal Corps as something that felt like it was, guided by God. How did your time in the military prepare you for the challenges you later faced in your electronics career? Was that the entire story you told me earlier?
Well, when I was in the military, mm-hmm. I knew that I came from a lower school, that I did not have the training to compete with all of the students all over this country. I knew that. So I knew in order for me to do it, I have to study twice as hard. So what I did, I continued to study. And in the military, when you go to class every day and on the weekend you off, what did I do? I would get my book, sit on my bed, and I would study. I'd go to the library and study. I studied all the time because I had to study to catch up. So that's what made life so difficult. I had to do more studying than I thought I should have.
Mm-hmm. Completing 162 weeks of training at the FAA Aeronautical Academy is an incredible accomplishment. What was the atmosphere like for you as an African American man studying in that environment during the 1950s and the 1960s?
Okay, that happened in the 1960s, in the 1960s, and I think 1970s. It started the late 1960s and 1970s. Mm-hmm. Well, basically, when I went to school with the FAA, it was normally 19 electronic technicians or electronic engineers in the class. Some of these people finished from the University of Alabama, Massachusetts Technology, and some of them had a lot more experience than I had. Mm-hmm. So what I had to do, I had to study. I had to study if I want to pass, if I want to make a 70. If I didn't make a 70, I was going home. They knew that. Out of the 14, if you didn't make a 70, you're going home. So I had to make a 70. Normally, after studying the way I did, prayed before I took the test, prayed before I studied at night. Normally, I would either come out number 2 or number 1 in the class.
That was indeed a good feat. Okay.
So that was a good seed, what started me to working with the FAA.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you noticed that you were performing as well as and sometimes better than technicians and engineers with more experience. So, how did you deal with the feeling that some people may have, expected you to fail?
Well, I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to fail. When I walk in to the class, I'm not going to fail. I'm going to study and I'm going to make it. As you said, asked about some of the technicians, some of the electronic engineers had more experience than I had. Yes, I'm sitting beside of them. Sometimes I was doing better than they were doing. And sometimes we doing this on the same level because they had a lot more experience than I had. But I studied. I didn't think that was going to be because they had the experience and came to the class. That was not going to be my downfall. My downfall was if I don't study, I'm going to fail. So study was it. Study, and I prayed a lot. I had to say a prayer. And I always use the verse, John 3:16.
Okay. It's a long way. So, you once plowed fields with mules and tractors and later found yourself repairing equipment that controlled aircraft flying overhead. What did that moment mean to you personally when you realized how far your life had come?
Well, I didn't realize it myself because I continued to do it all the time. I didn't realize it, but my wife and my daughters and my grandchildren told me. My wife said, she always called me by the name of Henry or either Ralph, by my middle name. And my daughter said, Daddy. My grandchildren said, Poppy, how did you do all of this? When you say you came from a poor school, I said, well, when I go to a class in the FAA, when I walk in that class, it's not, am I going to pass? I will pass. That was when I walked in the class, I will pass. Whether I'm going to be in the middle of the class or the top of the class, I am going to pass because I studied and I said a prayer. I'm not going to say that it was all easy. I'm not telling you it's easy. It was sometimes I had to put in more time studying in it, and sometimes I studied over all the way through the night until about give myself about 2 hours sleep and go back to school that next day.
Many young people today feel stuck in difficult situations or low-paying jobs. What is the most important lesson you hope they take from your story?
What I think the young people can take from my story on that is when they have, like a low-paying job. A low-paying job is a job. You have to put some effort yourself to upgrade from that low-paying job. One of the things I always like to do is I like to set goals. I like to set a goal. I set a goal and I work to that goal. If, for instance, I had a low-paying job and it was making, I don't know what they make now, $1. Well, let's say they make $5 an hour. That's a low-paying job. I want to make $20 an hour. Set the goal to make that you're going to make $20 an hour. Then go to the library and look up the jobs that paying $20 an hour. That's the goal that you're trying to make. Just continue to make that goal. Say, now, I don't think I can do this job here. Don't think. Go see can you do the job by taking the training. Don't stop and say, I don't think. I never told myself I can't do it. That's something else I never said. I never say I cannot. I always say I can. I know I can. So that's what I would pass on to the young people. Set goals and say I can.
Mm-hmm. You move forward through your own efforts, and yes, you just have to go for it always.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you repeatedly mention John chapter 3, verses 16. So you end your story with the verse John chapter 3, verses 16, which speaks about faith, love, and salvation. How does that message connect your personal struggles, your career achievements, and your belief in the power of prayer?
The power of prayer. John 3:16. John so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. He gave his only begotten son. So that's the way I look at it. I look at it that I connect with prayer. I connect it with prayer. That's the reason I feel. That's the reason I feel like I do. I connect everything that I do with prayer, and I feel that I can achieve these goals that I set up. That's the thing. Sometimes, I'm not saying, won't tell anybody it's easy. I'm not going to. When you set these goals and trying to do something to upgrade yourself, it's not going to be easy. Now, something else I always said, this is something else I always said through my whole career. If it's easy, it's not worth having. If it's too easy, it's not worth having. Mm-hmm. Make it be hard and then study and put God first. Study, and you make it.
Okay. So do you have the physical copy of your book? Can you?
Okay.
Yes, I have a copy. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's a really good cover page. Okay. So, to end the interview, when someone finishes reading Progress Through Struggle, what is the one message you hope stays with them the longest?
Well, one thing I said, I think that to read Progress Through Struggle, they will realize that it's not all easy. It's not all easy. It has to be hard. Well, I won't say it has to be hard. It's going to be a little difficult than you think it is. Anything that's too easy, like I say, anything that's too easy, it's not worth having. Anything that's too easy, not worth having. Now, I will say, I wanted to get the book title and everything, the church that my great-grandfather was a pastor of after he came out of slavery. This church was built in April the 8th, 1875. That's when the church was built. The church is not there anymore. But again, if it's set a goal, work that goal. If you reach that goal, set another one. Don't never reach a goal and sit back and be relaxed. Set another goal. Mm-hmm. When you get that one, set another one. In other words, you'll continue to climb the steps. When you know anything, you will be where you want to be. Me, I've been retired. Well, April the 3rd, 29 years. If you go look in my attic, I have goals set, the things I'm going to do. Now, since I'm retired, I still have goals. I still set goals. So never, and I will also leave, never stop setting goals. Never stop. Just continue the rest of your life.
Okay.
I hope that told out some of the things that I went through. I cannot tell them all because yes. And by the way, I will say this. I don't know if I'm going to record it on this or not. But on page 163 through 168 talked about how one of the times when I got out of school, as I mentioned it earlier, it talked about how God turned me down. When I'm looking for a job, he turned me down. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't give me an application. I did want to put that in there.
Can you hold your book again? And yes. Yes, so that we can see the cover. Okay. And can you say a few words to our audience, just to say a few words for them to purchase your book, and where can we purchase your book?
Oh, Okay, yeah, you can purchase my book at Amazon,
Mhm.
uh, Barnes and Nobles, and I have a website. It's at www.henryleggettebooks.com, and that tells you to go to the different places you can purchase the book.
Mhm. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, okay, you can put it down now. I will just
Put
say
it
that.
down.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Leggett, thank you for sharing your remarkable story with us today. Progress through struggle reminds us that determination, faith, and hard work can carry a person far beyond the limits others try to place on them. And to everyone joining us at Bookwrights House, thank you for being part of this conversation. May today's story inspire you to keep striving, keep believing, and never give up on the path ahead. So until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep discovering the stories that shape who we are.
Thank you. All right.